So this would be the second part. And for the second part, I said, you see, we still have those interferences. And this was so meta because I began to talk about manifestation techniques. And then we learned how to do magic. Okay, so at first it became manifestation techniques, then it became astrological talisman, and then talismans, and then essential oil blends and herbs, and the good part of like the good witchcraft, right? And then we became more aware of like protecting our magic, protecting our energy, increasing our energy that allows us to keep a space tidy and so on, because that requires stuff, right? And so protection over our magic. And so this is what I mean when I say more and more business owners become aware of the need to have slavery free and also sex slavery free, mind control free, and curse free trade. This is orgasmic, okay? This is orgasmic because people learn to access their kundalini energy in a way that is benefic, that is pleasurable, that is orgasmic, that is sovereign, that is loving, that is intimate. And all those who don't like that, either, they have to change or they have to fall away from our lives, right? Solutions that actually provide begin to be applied in ways that are actually supportive to love, life, and joy. Okay? So this is very, very good news. What it basically means is that we have been dealing with when I talked about the curse free, let's hold on the curse free because masonry, which is what we have for the Semke Ultra and all the things that imperil like our business, create perpetual war and so on. It has been a cult that is incest based, but is also curse based, okay, and betrayal based, and that has been prevailing in the economy. But right now, the way that they operate is that they create problems and provide solutions, right? So they can control both facets. And this is why you see the two, the P, it looks like a peace sign, but it's actually the two, which means a double agent. So they work for to create the problem, and then for to bring the solution. Whereas, a clean version of that would be solutions that are actually providing. So solutions that are actually providing are wealth based because people were taught to believe that solutions that are actually providing are not wealth based. And this is wrong, right? It is actually the double agent that disallows anybody to have an orgasm. Really. I mean, okay? It creates society of people that created society of people that, come on dopamine rather than all the lovely hormones. And it created a lot of grief and a lot of trauma. But now, Uranus Beta per se is bringing something different. So there's the phase of awareness, okay? If in the past people were coming to be emancipated, but nobody understood what they're talking about, now we have a global society that understands pleasure and its connection with space, autonomy, sovereignty, currency, and and that becomes a value, okay, for many, 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 many people that ally up together. And the value of having, curses free trade, curses free masonry, um, and curses free business, curses free relationships, okay? So that would allow a betrayal free relations. And this is kind of culminating on the entire journey of several decades of Sedna in Taurus, where we had to grow more authentic when it comes to our sexual pleasure, what we like, um, allowing connection to occur, orgasmic, okay, and then the things that come with that, the creativity, to work, okay, we talk about Venus is also the arts, so, but it's also possessions, okay, so to be able to have possessions by the merit of our artistic and creative abilities, and for the job to be orgasmic, okay, not in the sense of sex slavery, sex trafficking, the inversion of an orgasm, or the inversion of the life tree, the inversion of the kundalini, but actually pleasure. Okay. And people became so aware of that they begin to rebel what does not go in alignment with that. So that's the working hours that we require to be more respectable. In China, there have been I call it returning to tradition, because I learned about the value of letting go, of being at peace from Eastern traditions, right? So, but the Chinese learned a lot from the United States. And although they are owners of means of productions which allow them to create the bricks, they also were in labor forces and labor conditions that were slavery. Okay, and so in China there is a whole generation of youth that's creating leisure time, going back to leisure time. In the West, we knew that as slow living, and incorporating slow living. It doesn't mean that you don't work hard and even very hard, but you also relax deeply. And the notion of the deep relaxation and the fact that work is coming from passion rather than from strife, that is a Scorpio Taurus notion. Our standards for success, not just worldly success, but success in our intimate life, success with having our own sexual sovereignty, sexual energy. Okay, so we became aware of the fact that the Masonry also siphons energy from people and try to mess with the sexual, like all these things that perhaps we're not thinking about them so much. When people are just living together, working in a factory, maybe not necessarily living a bad life, but definitely with the beginning of having to tend to deeper standards of respect. So there began to be people that don't want to marry, began to be people that don't want to bring children. Then a question: wait, is it a choice, or is it because they cannot afford? And if so, if I cannot afford, so there has to be a change, has to be a revolution, right? People began to tend to fertility, and then that's one of the things that the Masonry cults or the satanic cults invert a lot. And so the conception, birthing, and upbringing experience, especially conception and birthing, and the first years of life, which is also Taurus, and the importance of expression and speech, okay, they became a lot more important with the Uranus Taurus. And that affected also how we do juristics, because to speak and heal and recover is necessary, and we cannot limit that. Otherwise, we create problems with nervous system and so on and so forth. And so limiting expression, okay, a lot more people care about limiting expression, and are willing to rebel. Okay, that became a value. We understand how that affects our life and our longevity. And then anybody that risks that is basically harming our sovereignty. So any slavery-based business or slavery-based mindset has no place. It's something we're willing to rebel against radically, and even more radically than we thought. So when Uranus is going to go direct on Beta per se, people will be even more radical about this, because with the retrograde, we go back, we look, we inspect, we we have more and more eurekas around that subject. So that is something that kind of everybody is willing to go through radical means of expression and action to ensure of what I said, that it is happening. Okay, and so anything that risks that right now has to perish or transform. Okay. Countries that are associated with Uranus, Beta per se, there's just so many countries. Okay, even from Afghanistan to Israel to Ukraine, to Netherlands. Okay, it has moon beta per se, and became very prominent. And so for Israel, for example, having sun, for Netherlands having moon, but also countries with a midheaven, a lot of leaders with midheaven associated, a lot of combos of leaders with midheaven on beta per se, okay, like composites of a couple of leaders that meet up, okay, and that's beta per se. The beta per se is coming, but with Uranus, there's also divorces, okay? A lot of divorces that at the beta per se that wasn't working for us. Now we have a divorce from that. Um, and divorces because Uranus is liberating, okay? And so it said now we had to curate betrayal, because when we were into structures and societies that were creating this betrayal, it is very painful. And now people have to come to accommodate for all these Venus values. Okay, and the respect, the autonomy, the sovereignty. And it's not for nothing that this very physical Venusian Taurian that is also spirit and matter. Okay, the third decan of Taurus is the decan of spirit and matter being balanced. That is having a scorpionic protection level, okay? And Scorpio is something that, it goes to the core of something and changes from something from the core, okay? So what is the core? Let's say you're not being able to have an orgasm, man or woman, okay? What is the core issue there? And then transforming it from the core. Scorpio is not afraid to go anywhere. Masonry it is. Global MK Ultra, global MK Ultra it is. North Korea it is. WEF it is. And when you actually are that willing to transform something from the core, it is a magnetic energy that really transforms everything around you. That's the power of the polar protection that we have on the Venusian. And I go back to conversation that I had with a Palestinian man as I was drawing the half moons, and he asked if I live alone. I told him, listen, you have no idea how many people I had to educate not to ask a woman such question. And he said, no, but if a woman is with children and so on, a mother with children, and she alone, what will she do? And he's talking about sex work, of course. And I said, you see, the women run away, the children run away, the single ladies run away, and what is left is men killing each other by the hundreds. And he understood what I'm talking about. He said, oh, but you talk sweet, you talk this. The other women are like, go away. I said, of course they're going to go away, because you have to respect for the autonomy, for the sovereignty, and then they can be sweet to you. Okay, so that's very likely a man that never had such conversation with any woman in his life on that level. He never ran into that, okay? And this is the polarity, okay? If I have a third house Venus, so the polarity, the worldview would be scorpionic, and this is the power of Scorpio to go down to the core. Yeah, you're asking me, you're basically trying to recruit me to sex work right now. So instead of being cruel or mean or crude to you, let's talk about this. Let's talk about processes. Let's talk from the core. What is your suggestion? What are the implications of your suggestion right now? And what are implications of people running away from anywhere where men would ask them such question on your own villages, in your own society, or Palestinian society, but also Dutch society, Israeli society. And this is something that is occurring with Uranus beta per se, that yes, there is a war, there is conflict, there is this, there is that, and we go changing from the core of our solutions, that once people create, and this is the antidote to the cult of creating problems to provide solutions that don't actually provide. Because you see, because if I grow food, okay, if I grow the half moons, if I grow places where forestry can happen on barren land, then naturally that needs to stand the test of time, and the culture has to adapt, because culture that kills the children, kills the women, kills the this, kills the that. I'm building a forest. The culture has to support the forest, because later men kill each other, and that usually be at the cost of trees, at the cost of weapon, at the cost of this. And it's very not ecosystemic to have a disrespectful to the feminine culture. It's also very not ecosystemic to have a curse-based culture and a cult-based culture. You see, all those downloads deepen as the moon grows to the last degrees of Scorpio, and kind of almost leaving the opposition with Uranus. That is mitigated by Venus, the ruler of Uranus, being in Capricorn, thinking about structure, things that stand the test of time. And Venus is applying to oppose to conjunct Pluto. So it's a very deep transformation, okay, of Venus, of the very Plutonic, deep core level sciences, nervous systems, where in the past there was pitting Venus into a certain situation where she would have to do so and so. Now we have an even deeper understanding. And I'm sorry for putting Jag on the line, but for example, Jaguar Wright, that still needs to create this cruelty-free artistry, and so she can release from the ties of MK Ultra and espionage culture on her income levels. She said, when you are a mother, and this is why they rape women to be mothers. When you are a mother, then you have to sacrifice. And then she went, okay, for it's not sex work, it's espionage. And then it ended up with her son having been sacrificed because he wanted to save his mom. And that was in the music industry. So we understand that those type of solutions are not providing. And I also, if I recall, episode 9 of Anneke Lucas, okay, the son of a woman that was in this sex industry, sex espionage, he was targeted to become basically a programmer, so a sort of an Epstein, and he managed to get out. And he had to torture people, he had to rape people, he had to electrocute people, he had to program people. So you see that this is the polarity of Scorpio. We go, wait, that we're no longer gullible about what we call sex work and housing. Okay, in Netherlands, it's very much with the moon. It's very much about housing, and we're no longer gullible about it. What do these conditions entail? And we are willing to go on a world war because we understand that if it is death, then let's face it, okay, and people are willing to fight to death when it comes to those things, because the murder of the soul is right now being purged. That's Urano Beta per se, the murder of the soul being purged, and it can coincide as bodies upon bodies. We see that, but it's also the deeper understanding that we are building a society that is way more equitable on a global scale. Okay, this is, we think about the rise of feminism, and you think about the role of the Second World War. It wasn't a lovely war, but neither were life as a woman before that war. Okay? And so, again, this is the remediation, this is the mitigation, because this is where we are heading anyway. The question is, are you willing to die for, like, how should I say it? Are you willing to die for an attempt to oppress women that will anyhow fail on a massive, large scale? And or the feminine, okay, but peoples in general. That is the power of Scorpio, okay? Scorpio is taking these Venusian values that are now Uranian and global and saying, well, this is my values. And if a person is disrespectful of that, then the question is very simple. Are you willing to die for trying to disrespect me and my values? Are you willing to die fighting to try to enslave and oppress me, which would anyway bring you another world war and perpetual war and death, whoever you are, no matter how high up the rank or low up the rank or what bunker you have in Albania? That's the Scorpio part. But more so, and I will read that again, an even more radical Venus emancipation is occurring. We talk about the conjoining of Deneb, Algedy, and Beta per se. Even more equity, autonomy, but also pleasure and respect. A deeper awareness of the value of sexual, intimate, energetic, physical, emotional, economic, and psychological sovereignty to all genders occur. Okay? This is not aligning with any cult. North Korean troops meet worldly food and freedom abundance. Refugees run into deeper standards of autonomy and respect, and they have to catch up. Leaders who grew believing nobody will save them as children encounter people who believe all facets of visible and invisible. When we're talking about invisible, the torture of people is not, the abuse is not just the torture of people. This is where they prepare the robot, they prepare the machine. And after that, they do mind control from afar because the people are more susceptible to that. Okay, so visible and invisible torture. So I came up with not only the explanation for that, for how it's done, but also for the technology that can, okay, I just suggested the technology that can empirically test what I say and prove it beyond reasonable doubt, also in court. Visible and invisible torture and abuse they have been through, holding them accountable for crimes they even think to commit, and also accommodate for the right to exit violence. Again, we talk about this technology, the proof when we put it in the light, the darkness perishes, right? You cannot turn off the darkness, but you can turn on the light. And it's turning on the light. Hey, there is science. Hey, there are solutions. There are solutions that actually provide the cure for cancer, that are actually cure for cancer, not the washing of a cure for cancer. More and more business owners become aware of the need to have slavery-free, also sex slavery-free and mind control-free and curse-free trade. Okay, different, okay, safe and free masonry. Solutions that actually provide begin to be applied in ways that are actually supportive of love, life, and joy. And I want to talk about debt because one of the laws that we had is that those who are not able to pay their debt are forgiven their debt. And this is the time where in the Pluto Saturn we understand that while responsibility is great, the gaslighting of responsibility that's done by these cult-like sciences and cult-like trade to enslave people into debt, which is a flawed concept of economy and reality. What comes from that is an understanding that all the structures that rely on that, all the solutions that rely, all the economy that rely on that has expired. And this is what the spirit of these times actually means. And people are willing to defend that to death.